Yeah, well, with what we're doing, you can't count on trust or loyalty. Doesn't matter who it is. And you should know about that more than anyone.
Alix Lapri, who plays Effie, was asked on social media a while ago, what would you like Effie's outcome to be? And her response was, something different than what happened, but you're just gonna have to wait and see. So, whatever happened with Effie's character at the end of season 4, it seems like Alix didn't agree with her character ending, and we do have to remember, a lot of the casting crew had no idea season 4 was gonna be Power Book 2 Ghosts last. There has been a lot of conflicting reports since the news broke, but a lot of them were apparently looking forward to coming back and filming a season 5. Whether there's any reshoots to change things, who knows. I personally think a lot of these character fates and storylines might potentially be in the air come the end of season 4, and Effie might just be one of them. So, in this breakdown, we're going to run through the story arc of Effie Morales, how she got to where she is, where her story arc might be heading in terms of her relationships, a potential future at Stanford, her backstory, and also asking the all-important question, will she survive come the end of Power Book 2 Ghost Season 4 Part 2? Now, heading into season 4, we all knew there was a lot of clues dating all the way back to Effie's time on Power to tell us she can't be trusted. At the end of the day, when push comes to shove, if Effie's future is on the line, whether it be her life or career aspirations, she will betray you to protect herself, or even kill if she has to, albeit she fumbled with Lauren. Throughout seasons 1, 2 and 3, we also heard through various conversations and also saw from some actions how Effie only cares about number 1. So, I don't think any of us were surprised when she went and did this.
I told Noma that you were threatening her daughter. We're working together and I have a future with her, so couldn't let that happen.
This bitch.
But neither should Tariq have been surprised. Just like she said to Tariq in 404, there's no such thing as loyalty and trust in the game that they're in. Ghost even warned him of something very similar towards the end of Power. Sometimes it's the people that are most closest to you, and I do think Tariq should have known better than anyone, especially because of what he's been through in terms of people stabbing him in his back. But that's also why heading into season 4, I always thought her relationship with Kane was a ticking time bomb. No way was it going to last a distance because these were two characters who have two complete different visions and end goals. And with the type of character that Effie is, in terms of wanting to be independent and someone who's all about survival, we all knew this was only going to be a matter of time, which also proved that she still did care for Tariq. However, it didn't mean that she didn't care for Kane either, because she did, and so she started season 4 in a romantic relationship with Kane. She went to him as soon as he was shot, and the way they later shared a moment in the penthouse, a moment which I do think was real. Kane was there for her at a moment in time when not many people were, and when it comes to Effie, she really doesn't have too many people that she can rely on in terms of family. So, when she found herself in a position where her back was against the wall, and where she was quite vulnerable, that's where Kane stepped in. But I think what we saw play out at the end of 401, where she warned Tariq about him being hunted down, you could clearly tell she was conflicted.
I was fucking angry and my back was up against the wall, okay? I wasn't thinking when I told Noma about us finding Anya. I didn't think she was gonna try to fucking kill you.
Effie, what the fuck did you think she was gonna do after hearing some shit like that, huh?
I made it up to you.
She made the decision to go to Noma and warn her about Anya, because like I said before, she's all about survival. She's always going to do what benefits her end goal, and also because I feel like she was really angry in that moment. She thought her and Tariq could go back to what they were, but we all knew that was never going to happen. However, let's just take a look at a few different perspectives, and look at this from Effie's viewpoint. Tariq rightfully rejected her outside the prison, and so her loyalty didn't exactly lie with Tariq. In her eyes, they were done. So, she was going to do what she needed to do to survive, and in fact, I don't think she owed Tariq anything. Tariq should have seen this coming and solved the problem before it became a problem, so to speak. That's one of the mistakes I feel Tariq made, which I do feel he should have seen coming, not just because he's been betrayed by Effie before, but like countless of other mentors have told him, always be 3 moves ahead. Now on the flip side, Effie made the decision to get closer and work directly under Noma to protect herself and her future, but let's not forget what she said to Diana.
Get that shit together, okay? Because with Noma, you're either in or you're out with a bullet. Your choice.
In the heat of the moment, she might have been angry and she might have made the decision to protect herself and her future, but I do think, had she stayed on Tariq's side or did something to gain at least some trust back, he would have eventually helped her to get to where she wants, which is Stanford, whereas with Noma, you're either in or out with a bullet, and I think that's where the problem lies with Effie going forward. There was a very rare opening at Stanford for an interview which she booked in 403, but we all know what happens when you seem to find a way out. Something always tends to pull you back in, Just like with Ghost, we saw it countless of times in Power. Now in Effie's case, it was Kane who needed her help to strike a deal with the Russians, and so we all saw how she missed her interview at Stanford, which she definitely regretted. After seeing how close Kane and Omar were, she thought to herself, yeah, I made a big mistake. Openings at Stanford are far and few between, and she definitely regretted that she missed her interview to help Kane, that's for sure. But just hold on to that thought, I am going to come back around to it in just a second. Now heading into episodes 404 and 405, Effie didn't really play that big of a role. We saw her having a conversation with Tariq at Stansfield after he was on the hunt for Diana, and then we saw her briefly in conversation where Noma questioned her about the drugs that were being sold at Stansfield, but apart from those two occasions, we've not really seen Effie involved much. However, I do expect her to play a big part in part 2, and her character description does give us a hint at what could potentially be coming for her character arc. Entering Season 4, Effie Morales is very aware that the game will only end in one way for her, so she doubles down on herself and her ultimate goal, a PhD in robotics from Stanford, and she needs to get to Stanford as soon as possible before she gets any deeper, and finds it impossible to get out of the life. With the help of Professor Bennett, she applies to a co-term program that would allow her to finish her undergraduate degree and begin her PhD studies at Stanford. But once Effie is officially accepted and the future she's dreamt of is within the palm of her hands, she questions whether or not she's ready to leave behind everything she knows for it. However, there is one thing we know for sure about Effie, she is a survivor. So, at some point in part 2, Effie will find herself with a route to Stanford with the help of Professor Bennett. She's gonna apply and be accepted to a program which could see her move out of Stansfield and where she could actually finish her studies at Stanford in California, where soon after, she can then begin her PhD. But there are a couple of problems. Firstly, Stanford's robotics program is extremely expensive, which I'm not too sure whether Effie has at this moment in time. We all know in Season 3 when she was running the drug operation with Tariq and Braden, with no cap all frap, she was cutting bricks to sell at Stansfield to try and make some extra cash on the side. It's also why she went to Noma to get a bigger cut in 403, which was declined. Whether she somehow managed to save enough to at least pay for 1 or 2 years, who knows, let's wait and see. But regardless, I personally think that should be the least of her worries. The big issue for Effie is what she said countless of times herself, you're either in or out with a bullet, and that's the problem that Effie will find in part 2. The moment her dream is in the palm of her hands, she's going to start to question whether she's ready to leave everything behind, or in my opinion, what's more likely, a life that won't let her leave. She knows as much as anyone you can't escape. Even if you move to California, if no one wants to find her, she'll find her. If no one wants to threaten her in regards to her family, I'm sure she could do that too, although on that point, OB wasn't able to find any family members for Effie. However, thanks to an interview with Chronicles of Power, it has been teased that we might be seeing Effie's mom in Season 4. So, very similar to Kane in regards to learning more about his backstory in regards to why he's such a mama's boy, I do feel like we'll learn more about Effie's history, which is a long time coming. We've all been asking this question since all the way back in Power. So, let's see if we get answers as to who her brother was killed in a robbery gone wrong. Let's see if Effie's mom finds herself in trouble with law enforcement, where Effie then gets backed into a corner by Detective Carter. Or, let's see if Nomar targets Effie's mom as a weakness, because with Effie being in this life, her family will inherit this risk that comes with it, just like she said in 304. So, the dynamic definitely will shift for Effie, and it is going to be interesting to see how she deals with all these moving chess pieces, before she's been able to move without her family being targeted. But I do think it will start to be a little different for Effie in part 2. Now, in the teaser for part 2, we've got Effie being held at gunpoint, and it is difficult to say whether it's law enforcement or an enemy in the streets. If it is law enforcement, such as Carter's task force, then I'm really intrigued to see whether they can make Effie crack. Towards the end of Season 3, we saw Blanca Rodriguez and Jenny Sullivan pick her up for the attempted murder of Lauren, and despite Kane trying to push her into pinning everything on Tariq, she did remain strong. But, like we've seen before, Carter is a different proposition, who is someone who isn't afraid to use dirty tactics or any means necessary, and who knows, he may even turn the screw with Effie's mother. So let's see how strong Effie is then. Let's see if she stays strong if they threaten to take away her future at Stanford, because just like her character description says, she is a survivor. She is going to do what she needs to do to survive. But, regardless of who has Effie at gunpoint, whether it's law enforcement or an enemy in the streets, it is a reminder of the dangers that come with the world that she's in. So, that brings me all the way back around to the question, could Effie potentially find herself in danger? Will she survive come the end of part 2? Alix says that she really didn't like the way her character arc ended, but it doesn't necessarily mean she didn't survive. However, we all know how power do. Once they start to humanize these characters, once they start tapping into their backstory, which I do think they will with Effie by introducing her mother, and giving us more details around her relationship with her mother, what she went through in the past and so on, it never ends well. But considering the cast and crew didn't know that this was going to be the final season, it does raise the question in terms of whether Effie's story arc will have the right conclusion. So, it is difficult to say at this moment in time. However, if I were to actually give my prediction in terms of where we currently stand, I'm leaning towards her potentially surviving, only because a lot of the cast and crew were expecting to come back for a season 5, Alix being one of them. Whether they do any reshoots during this break to kind of change things, who knows. I do think that would be quite difficult. Whether she joins or is a part of the new Power spin-off, that can't be ruled out either, because who knows what they have planned with these characters that will definitely survive season 4. And I really do think Effie could be that one character that falls into that category. But let's wait and see. She may very well be taken off the chessboard, and if she is, if any of you guys believe Effie's time is up, who do you guys think would pull the trigger? Could it be Kane? Could it be Tariq? Or could it be someone else? I am really intrigued to see where they kind of finish all the story arcs after episode 10, not just Effie's, because anyone who remains alive can be a part of the next phase of the Power universe. But that's a breakdown of where we are with Effie's story arc heading into Power Book 2 Ghost Season 4 Part 2. There is a lot of mystery in the air considering she hasn't been on our screens much in the last 2 episodes, but I do think she will have a big role at some point in Part 2. So, drop all your thoughts and predictions down below in the comment section in regards to all things Effie Morales. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.